With Firehouse.com, and with me today is
Steve Austin and Howard Cohen.
And who are you all with?
We're with the Cumberland Valley Volunteer Firemen Association.
And tell me a little bit about the Code of Ethics and the white paper and what's become of it since then and how you all got started on this mission.
Well, the Fire Service Reputation Manager white paper, and I'm glad to have my partner here with me, Howard Cohen, who is the attorney for our association that helped us craft this and did most of the editing on the white paper. We got together several years ago at the request of some of our members who recognized that there was a real problem brewing about the acts of a small number of members of the fire service that were, by their actions, were eroding the high moral ground from beneath the feet of the entire fire service. And that has a lot to do with the 24-hour news cycle and the internet and all of that.
That's right, Steve. When we see these incidents, when we see a firefighter committing sexual abuse or some other incident, we see slapped on the newspaper, firefighter committed. It's not John Doe. It's not if he's during the course, if he's a volunteer, if he works for the Department of Public Works, it's not the Department of Public Works somebody, it's firefighter John Doe is committed. And we see that again and again. As Steve said, it's really eroding the moral high ground from the sea of the fire service that we've maintained for hundreds of years.
So you're saying one bad apple can spoil, generations of service in the community?
Absolutely. And we're also seeing is this new technology that we're seeing is really helping advance this issue. We're seeing people using Facebook and Twitter and all these new ways of communicating is helping really spur on some new issues that we're seeing where firefighters, especially some of the younger firefighters who aren't so attuned to some of the problems that they might cause by something so simple as a Facebook post, we're trying to help bring some awareness to those issues.
And unfortunately, some of the older problems that we've experienced, where we've seen people in a position of authority misusing fire department property, or taking money from associations or union locals, or what have you, they crop up also. Again, we want to make it clear to everyone that this is a very, very small minority of the fire service. But those actions have a disastrous effect on the perception of the public about it, especially in times where the public are looking at us with a lot more scrutiny than they ever had before, because of the economy, the tax base, and that. We want to make sure that our best foot is forward all the time. So as a result of that, we called in the white paper, which, by the way, the last two United States fire administrators either crafted it or endorsed this. Chief Calvin Cochran and Chief Greg Cade, two former fire administrators, participated in the development of this, along with a big cross section of fire service members. So we were real pleased to get that together. In the white paper, we called for a number of issues to take place, and one of those was the establishment of a fire service code of ethics, and that has happened over about the last a year to 18 months.
And in that fire service code of ethics, it's a document where we call upon people when they're going to sign this document that they have to consider all these issues beforehand. It's got to run through your mind that I represent the fire service. I don't just represent me, I represent the fire service. It has a long history to it. And that before I go out, before I enter somebody's home, before I render medical care to them, before I go out and face the public in one of our large red fire trucks, I need to think about the impact of me and my behavior, even when I'm not off duty, and what it is that I'm going to be doing.
Now, the Cumberland Valley Volunteer Firemen's Association couldn't do this by ourselves, and we called upon the fire service to step forward and make some of this happen, and certainly they did. And one of the groups that really came to the forefront was the EFO group from the National Fire Academy. They were very concerned about this, and they submitted a draft code of ethics to the Congressional Fire Services Institute National Advisory Committee for review. And after a period of about a year, when all 43 organizations of CFSI had the opportunity to look through that, a lot of good edits were put forward. And right around the first of the year of this year, a document came forward. This EFO document came forward and began to be adopted, discussed, and adopted by a number of places. And two of those most distinguished adopters were the National Fire Academy, and we give Superintendent Dennis O'Neill so much credit for providing the leadership there to do that. Now that code of ethics appears in every classroom and every bit of printed material that the National Fire Academy is going to publish. That's great. And then just at the IFSTA Executive Board meeting held in Tulsa in July, the Executive Board unanimously approved a motion made by Chief Kitchell from Southern California to have the Code of Ethics printed in every IFSTA manual, which is huge in terms of the reach of that. So we're getting to where we want to be, but our partners have stepped up and done exactly what the white paper has suggested, that they get on board with this and make things happen. So we see a lot of discussion now across the country about doing the right thing and about making sure people understand their role as firefighters and how important that is, that their behavior is above reproach. Superintendent O'Neill gave a thought-provoking speech to the Pro Board Accreditation Conference in Orlando in January, in which he debunked the myth that everyone does it, because we've heard a pushback that the fire service is only a reflection of society, and people in society are doing this, and we get people from society, therefore we should expect it and accept it, expect and accept that we have bad behavior in our group. Superintendent O'Neill said, when does the general public come into your bedroom at night and comes into your daughter's bedroom, with a 14-year-old daughter's bedroom, and has to examine her when she's having a medical emergency? When does the general public come into your kitchen when you've cashed your paycheck and the money's laying there and you've taken your rings off? The fire service does. This is not something that we expect, not something that we can accept. And when people say, yes, the general public does it, they've said something wrong. It's not correct. So we're glad this national debate's taking place. We're pleased to talk about that and provide these documents on our website, firefighterbehavior.com. And anyone that'd like to go there and visit and take a look at some of the things we have posted there would enjoy looking at that stuff.
If you look at departments maybe getting, as a new member, someone coming in saying, these are the rules we expect, and sign right here, or?
Well, I think it's more than just signing something. I think, as Howard mentioned a little while ago, it's understanding. It's understanding that, number one, what you're becoming part of. Whether you're stepping into the career service or you're coming into the volunteer service, you're becoming part of a group that's much larger than yourself and has a storied history in our country. And then it's also understanding about ethics. A lot of folks haven't had the opportunity to understand. Well, we all know the Ten Commandments. We all know what's right and what's wrong. We learned that when we were young, or we should have learned that when we were young. But some of these are subtle. The way we interact with our fellow firefighters, male and female, the way we approach the public, how we conduct ourselves in the public's eye. These are things that may be lost, and just may not be unknown to a new recruit coming in the board.
I think that's right. And a lot of these issues are things that people generally often may pay lip service to. They may say you don't go drinking and driving, and then suddenly you see firefighter arrested for drinking and driving, or using drugs, or even spousal assault, or any of those sort of things. We're hoping that people take a look at this, that they carefully ponder what's in there, that they understand what's in there, and that the terms of what we've written and specified are important for folks to think about, just as a general way of good living, besides when they're spending their time as firefighters.
So I guess social media, I guess a new generation coming in has to understand the parameters and where you draw the line on social media with calls and privacy issues.
I think that's absolutely right. And it's not just in the fire service. We're seeing it everywhere. You take a look at the media and you see that employers, when they're interviewing prospective candidates, are looking and trying to get passwords to folks' social media pages. So it's not just the fire service in which we're seeing these issues, but certainly we're seeing the negative effects of these issues within the fire service. And we think that by driving them home to both our current members and new recruits, that we think that we're doing everybody a benefit.
But it's not just social media, I guess, with the, like you said, some issues, just create a bad eye or a black eye for the entire service, the entire community.
There's subtleties in social media. We talked about that a moment ago, and people don't really understand the ramifications of some of those things. Some of it is just poor behavior, something that that we wouldn't accept. We're not going to accept people in the fire service that steal. We're not going to accept people that discriminate against their fellow firefighters. That's something that's unacceptable. And unfortunately, we have to remind that very small minority of folks about that. This is not a painting with too broad a brush here, because recognize that 99, 44, 100% of the fire service doesn't act in that negative way. It's just a small number of bad actors that are really causing us a problem.
Okay, Steve and Harold, thanks a lot for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Howard Cohen.
Howard Cohen.